So we've identified that the codependency that we have is not necessarily just between the individuals, you and I and the collective, with elites. It's kind of a codependent relationship we have with a much broader, thicker sort of pyramidal structure that's above us, and it's anybody who is above us is part of the problem, because they're feeding into a dangerous positive feedback loop where we are fundamentally seen as a threat to be suppressed. And it's ubiquitous. I'm claiming. I can't prove this. This is my subjective opinion. It's ubiquitous throughout the system. The sense that things are getting out of control and this threatens my position, which threatens me. So your marketeers, your government, people who are trying to get you to watch a movie and go to the cinema, people who are trying to get you to listen to their music, people who are trying to get you to buy their trainers, people who are trying to get you to vote a certain way, people who are trying to get you to eat certain food. We are so messaged to. We're hearing so many messages about what we should do. That's one level of the torrent of messaging we're subjected to. And then we're hearing messages about what we should be. That's pretty dangerous. Like, you tell me what to do, that's tedious. What I should be, oh, we're getting like, ugh, that's really invasive. What to think, what to believe, what to feel, where your sexual energy should go. And you might say, oh, this is an overstatement, this is paranoia. It's already here. They're already trying to control who people find attractive. And if you find, you may think the gay rights movement was a success because it allowed people the liberty and the freedom to just express who they truly were and just live free from trouble. Oh, no, 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 no. That's not over. There's a new thing now where, and you'll see this more and more, I predict, and I guarantee it's already happening. We will all be told what is acceptable, this tiny little window, what is it, David Icke calls it, the postage stamp perceptual window. It will get smaller, and it will get smaller, and it will get smaller. And so much of who you are will become unacceptable, verboten. What do you do about that? Do you riot? Do you form a communist cell and try and have a revolution and take over? Video editor is nodding. Frantic's like, yes, do that, do that. I say the thing to do is, if we recognize the game we're in and we open our eyes, not all of us, it's not reasonable to expect that everybody's going to do that. They've so much invested in the game as it is, you can't ask it of them, and if you do, it's cruel. But if enough of us, if a critical mass open their eyes, see the game as it is, and act accordingly, the game is over. The game is completely over. It really is a war on consciousness now. We are in the middle of a culture war. This is World War III. Not guns, not bombs, but words, ideas, propaganda, and ideologies. This, and we've been in it for years. I denied this for years. People were saying to me, there's a culture war. I said, it's an overstatement. That's hyperbole. It's an exaggeration. It's not helpful. No, it's a culture war. It's a culture war. And it's all out. There's no rules of engagement. If somebody in the position of power in a hierarchy wants to maintain their position and propagandize you, message you a certain way, there are no restraints. They don't care if it destroys children's mental health. They don't care if it drives certain members of the population to suicide. I can show you examples, numerous examples of governmental and administrative and corporate marketing drives or propaganda drives. I mean, it's the same thing, marketing, propaganda. Propaganda is marketing via another name. Where they knew perfectly well, because they'd done the research beforehand, that if you do this marketing drive to push this amount, to this amount of the population, a certain number of people will go through, the negative effects are going to be this many people will kill themselves, this many people will become alcoholics, this many people are going to, it's going to degrade the quality of their lives or kill their education or whatever. And they just say, yeah, fine. Yeah, fine. The juice is worth the squeeze. That's when you see it at a big collective level. But you've seen this at a smaller level. It's considered perfectly acceptable on the battleground of this culture war to accuse somebody of something that you know perfectly well they didn't do and that they're not guilty of, that will destroy their whole life, their marriage, their career, where they live, how they make money, everything, just to gain an inch of ground on the battle. That's the rules of engagement. Oh, sorry, there are no rules of engagement. It's total war. That's what, when we say total war, you mean the gloves are off. You mean you would use biochemical warfare. There's no Geneva Convention. You shoot prisoners. You torture the people you capture. That is total war. It is victory by any means necessary. This is why you're seeing so much extremism online, so much polarization, because we are choosing sides. Whether you like it or not, you're going to be pushed to choose a side. Who's pushing you, though? Who's messaging you? Anybody who's messaging you to choose a side, they're just recruiting you to fight their battles for them. That's all they're doing. This is why having a moral philosophy that functions as a value filter is critical. We must teach it to our young. We must teach it to our children. We're living in an information age. We're living within an information war, a war on consciousness, a war on ideas, a war on even on your capacity to think. Of the New York Times, a major newspaper, a major institution of mass media, as I mentioned in the last video, that traces its history back decades, last week released an article saying that critical thinking is bad for you and you shouldn't do it. Critical thinking is toxic now. Critical thinking, for those of you who are not familiar with the term, it just means your capacity to question your own thoughts. So the New York Times is saying, don't question your own thinking. If you think something and you believe it, they actually encourage you in the article. Whatever you believe to be true within the first few seconds in response to new information, that's probably true. Don't research it further. Don't gather more information. Don't think, just react. Who benefits, cui bono, from that? How stupid and numb and jellyfish-like will that make a population? How open to and impressionable and naive will that make people? How much easier to control? The problem is it's a very, very risky strategy that they're playing, because in this culture war, there isn't just two sides, for one, but let's pretend that there is. If I encourage people not to think critically so that they're easier to recruit to my side, they're actually also easy to recruit to my enemy as well. It's a very, if we're talking militarily and it's total war, and we're talking strategy, that's a really dangerous strategy, because I can recruit you easier, but so can my enemy as well. So we must think critically. My God, we need to hold on to philosophy. By the way, just as an aside about philosophy, it was a young medical students, they set up a charity in Liverpool, which is the area that I'm from. They're not from the UK, they're both students from outside the UK, but they've set up a charity in Liverpool. They're at Liverpool University and they're training to be doctors. And the charity is to encourage more young people to get into medicine, because apparently it's becoming less and less popular. And so they interviewed me and we were talking, and they were saying, what role does philosophy have in daily life and in academia? And I was like, just so you know, because I don't expect people to know this, really everything is philosophy. If there was no philosophy, you wouldn't have medicine. If there's no philosophy, you wouldn't have psychology. You wouldn't have architecture. You wouldn't have art. You wouldn't have biology. It's all, philosophy is the big thing, and these are all branches of philosophy. It's essential. We can't do without it. How can we think thoughts about plants and flowers and the taxonomy of, like cetaceans without philosophy? Where's the scientific method come from? From science. Okay, where did science come from? It's philosophy. It's absolutely essential that we distinguish between we've got it upside down in our culture. Again, it might be for nefarious reasons, or it might just be a mistake because it's an easy mistake to make, but it's huge. It's more important to teach people how to think than what to think. I worked in the British education system for 5 years, and people say to me, how would you reform it? And I say, just start there. You want your children to know how to think. You don't just shove their heads full of information. Content can always be a carrier for ideology. Content can always be a vessel for poisonous, parasitic ideas. If I don't give the child the psychological, mental, philosophical immune system to filter the bad ideas, that's really dangerous. If I do give them the filter, I can hit them and they grow, and then I give them time to grow and develop and have that strength. I can give them bad ideas. I can trust them with bad ideas. I wouldn't have to worry about hate speech, freedom of speech, coercing speech, political correctness. If everybody understood how to think critically, they had a strong psychological immune system, they had good filters for that which was good and that which was bad, which equates to a good moral philosophy, you wouldn't need to worry about this. We don't want to live in a world where the government and state-level education has to worry about what young adults are thinking. That's crazy. Just give them the capacity to think. That's a nanny state. Oh, we better check. What are you looking at online? Are you getting radicalized? Are you getting polarized? Well, they will do if you don't teach them how to think, if they can't distinguish good information from bad, if they're not trained to do their own research, which, by the way, these little things that we carry around is killing the ability to do. I speak to people all the time online who ask me questions via YouTube and ask other people on YouTube comments for answers to questions that they could find by opening a tab on their favorite search engine and just searching. It would take them 10 to 15 seconds, but they would rather ask the question of other people and have them answer it for them. And you could say that's laziness. And I would say, no, I think the laziest thing to do is just do it yourself. You know what it is? Codependency. Codependency. We are now entrained to love being given information from the top down. You tell me what to think. I'm not doing my own research, but I'm a good vessel. I'm a good codependent cop. You could put whatever you want into me. I'm not going to distrust thinking. Thinking is painful. It brings me out a rash. It feels all prickly and sweaty. Ugh. No, just you chop up my food for me and just shoot it directly into my mouth. That's how I like it. This is the kind of codependency I'm talking about. The top-down codependency. We must break this cycle. If we don't claim our minds and our emotions and our physiologies back, we will become jellyfish. We will be jellyfish physically, and we will be jellyfish emotionally, and we'll be jellyfish psychologically and philosophically, and that's where we're going. Cui bono? Who benefits from a nation of gormless, sick, poor immune system having, poor psychological immune system having morons who are only fit to consume? Who benefits? Everybody who is above jellyfish level. And by the way, just to finish on this one point, I don't know enough about it, but we can, if you're interested, I can go and interview people who do. We need to look at the ways in which I've already described. The population has expanded. The people up the pyramid are frightened and they're holding on because they feel the tectonic shifts below them. You know what? One of the things they do is perfectly natural. If I'm up there, I'm going to recruit people up. Now imagine a pyramid. I'm recruiting people into positions of power at the same level of me, laterally, horizontally. You end up with a growing bureaucracy. Can anybody answer the question? How big should a government be? How big should it be? Should we have a limitlessly large government? Why don't we all just become government employees then? I was asked this the other night about police state. And I said, yeah, let's just all be police. Let's have grandmothers in police uniform baking bread. Let's have little kids, little toddlers in a little cute police. Everybody become the police. There's a solution for you. Grow the police state infinitely and there's no fight because we're all police now. And our job is to just keep the peace. Well, that seems reasonable to me. Let's go ahead. Or we all just join the government. We all become government employees and just let it grow and grow and grow and grow. I'm making a facetious point, I hope you grasp it, in order to think, like, what are we doing? Who checks the government? Who checks the size of the government? Local government, federal government, whatever you like. It can't just be allowed to be as big as it wants. That is not a democracy. That's an oligarchy. These people are gangsters. They're gangsters. They're gangsters. So, of course, the scenario and the flavor of everything leans towards deception and criminality. You have people who are just feeding themselves. The beast will not shrink of its own accord. No animal says, oh, I want to be at a small... Well, humans have the intelligence to say, if I'm a beast, I'm going to die younger. We have imagination and we have memory and we have the ability to think. So we can say, I want my mass to get smaller. Every other animal will eat and eat and eat and grow and grow and grow. No sense of the consequences to themselves or others. There is no other animal. There is no other animal that will be like, oh no, that's enough fish for me. You see like dolphins, porpoise, they're intelligent, they won't do it. No, they won't. They're not going to be like, oh, I think I've had enough fish today. No more fish for me. I just want to be a little slimmer. I want to be a slimmer dolphin. They ain't doing that. Humans can. But no beast chooses to be smaller. No animal chooses to be smaller. These institutions, these governments, any governing body, and I'm including marketeers, propagandists, PR companies, they don't say, let's get smaller, guys. Why would they? That's crazy. The rules of capitalism are your points are profit. Your points are growth. I'm not anti-capitalist. I'm just saying a long enough timeline of playing these games, we end up with certain results. And maybe that's a good way of framing the situation we're in right now. We've been playing a certain type of game for a certain amount of time, and now we're living with certain kinds of results. The restriction on our freedoms, therefore, by what I've just told you, it becomes inevitable. The creaking sense of like what you can and can't say getting smaller and smaller, the sense that the people above us are like grinding down, it becomes inevitable. Something in this system has to give. We cut the timeline we're on, and the way we have been living is over. Do not despair. Do not despair. It wasn't that great anyway. We were a bunch of dummies consuming stuff made by children, bleeding fingers in third world countries. That's crap anyway. The products we were using are crap anyway. We're feeding people who do not deserve to be fed, who will never eat all of the fruits and the bananas and the nuts that they've stockpiled in 100 lifetimes. It's time for a change. And I think this is the sickness, this is the discomfort, this is the pain and the pangs of childbirth of a new way of doing things. And I believe it will be better. And I'm very optimistic about that. But there does need to be a critical mass of people who can open their eyes and see this for what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time and for your attention. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Cheers.